All right. I think you can see now, right? It's okay. So ZSM5 zeolite catalyst is that molecular ship zeolite 5 angstrom. That name is another name. We can say that zeolite Sconi mobile number 5 is first synthesized by Mobile Company in 1972. It replaces many homogeneous catalysts that were used in many petrochemical processes. Because previously, before this, people used to use catalysts, and that could be other type of catalysts. But soon after that, they found that new type of catalyst, ZSM5, when it appeared, people found it that, oh, this is a unique catalyst for some of the chemical reactions. Very good. Because of this shape selective nature, because of this acidity, because of that it can stand high temperature, so many things actually that comes from a material as a catalyst that they found it in this zeolite catalyst. So ZSM5 is synthetic zeolite catalyst. There are some natural zeolites that we discussed, mordenite and others. There are some natural ilmenite. So these are the natural zeolites. But there are some we synthesize based on silica alumina ratio and other inorganic oxides like sodium oxide, iron oxide, rare earth oxide, rare earth elements. Right. So ZSM5 has diameters of for its pores D1 is 55.6 angstrom, D2 5.4 angstrom, whereas zeolite Y has a diameter of 7.4 angstrom. Based on this diameter, some molecules can get in, others will not. So this is the shape selective nature of that. So particular type of compounds can get in, rest will not. So this way we can control many reactions also. And our desired products can be obtained by using this type of shape selective catalysts. The zeolite is one of them. So ZSM5 zeolite catalyst is used in petroleum industry for hydrocarbon interconversion. All these we discussed before: cyclization, isomerization, your catalytic cracking, many of the hydrocarbon processing. That's conversion of this. ZSM5 zeolite is a highly porous aluminosilicate with a high silica to alumina ratio. So the substitution of an aluminum ion charge 3 plus, right? 3 that plus up. Okay. For a silicon ion that is charge 4, if this aluminum is replaced by this silicon, where charge 4 is coming and replacing what? Charge 3 is being replaced by charge 4. So it requires the additional presence of a proton. H plus is coming from this silicon. So this additional proton gives rise to zeolite acidity, which causes its activity. So ZSM5 is controlled by the silica alumina ratio, which brings it at various acidity, and we, based on this acidity, we have many applications, because some of the reactions the acidity is required. Some of the reactions just normal will be okay. Otherwise, this is due to this acidity, over cracking or over some of the things that happens, which is again not desirable. But many of the processes where we find that this acidity is required, and sometimes the high acidity is required because of the desired product to get. So this is highly porous, and throughout its structure, it has an interesting two-dimensional pore structure, like this two-dimensional pore structure. So it has an intersecting two-dimensional pore structure. The acidity of the zeolite is very high. The reaction of and catalysis chemistry of zeolite ZSM5 is due to this acidity. So we have two types of acidic sites: Bronsted acid sites and Lewis acid site. So carbocations are formed from hydrocarbons on two different acid sites. One is that Bronsted acid sites, another one is that Lewis acid sites. So you should remember that Bronsted acid sites donate protons while Lewis acid sites accept electrons to form carbocations from hydrocarbon. Figure in the next slide will show you how an olefin, ethylene, produces an ethyl carbonium ion C2H plus H5 by reacting with a proton donated from Bronsted acid site. Alternatively, also can be seen in figure. In that figure, I'll show you the figure. Okay, yes, I'll come back to this. Then, Lewis acid site accepts an electron from an alkane to produce the same ethyl carbonium ion. These two reactions take place on the acid sites of catalyst along the formation of carbonium ion. So we look at it. You see that olefin, double bond, alkane, single bond. Right. So now, Bronsted acid sites is that it can donate proton, hydrogen ion, H plus. So it can donate, it goes away, right? So when it goes away, that means it breaks that carbon-carbon double bond, make it C2H5 plus ion, this ion, carbocation, it forms. Now, if it is carbon-carbon single bond, there, this Lewis acid site, where it accepts electron, here is that plus sign, you can see that. Okay. So this side, plus side is already developed. If it is so, so it means it accepts any negatively charged ion, hydride ion, H plus, that means any electron coming with that, right? H minus. This ion can come in and can form this carbocation. Okay. So one is that if it is alkane, it needs Lewis site. If it is olefin, it needs Bronsted site. If both sites are available, very good. If not, we can control by controlling the silica alumina ratio. Then if you need this type of sites more, that means in the structure you should have more silicon, right? Silicon, you replace this aluminum with silicon, replace this one aluminum with silicon. Then there should be one aluminum somewhere here, right? Mostly silicon, little aluminum. Then you can desire Lewis acid sites develop more. If you have this one, suppose bronze side, then silica aluminum is coming with this O, that means hydrogen ion. You can control these sites. So depends upon the catalytic reaction up, or it is either you need Bronsted acid sites or Lewis acid sites. So there is, can you see that? Can you see? Right. If not, just inform me. Okay. So acid sites in solids. One is that loose side is not very clear. I think it will not be okay. That is electron acceptors. Bronsted side is that H plus proton donor. So important to know for mechanism elucidation, that is what's the thing you want from it. There is one acid hydrogen for every tetrahedrally bonded aluminium. So these active sites are distributed uniformly throughout the bulk and are bridging hydroxyl group. OH group is now attached. So these are classic Bronsted sites, the intrinsic strength of which is a function both of particular environment and also silica alumina ratio, silicon aluminum ratio in this structure is very, very important to have their properties, acidic properties, which acidic properties you want more, dominating that part. So if my slides are out of range, please inform me. Okay? If it is not, then let me go ahead with that. Right. So a variety of catalysts with acidic sites have been found to be active in the dehydration of alcohols and in the cracking and isomerization of hydrocarbon. Okay, so among these silica obtained by of silica gel, high purity alumina prepared by the calcination of specially prepared aluminum hydroxide and silica alumina mixtures, all these we can control. So in the case of silica alumina, the sites are ascribed to the presence of trivalent aluminum ions Al3 plus in a mixture of quadrivalent silicon ions Si4 plus, which give rise to charge difference in the neighborhood of aluminum ions, because just now I showed you, that is, if it's silic Si4 plus replaces this Al3 plus, it's bringing one positive ion extra, right, in that structure. So there will be a charge difference in the neighborhood of the aluminum ions. So these acidic sites can be poisoned by ammonia or so this sits on that. So when these catalysts are treated with alkalis, their catalytic character is greatly modified. So aluminum is the acidic site, but silicon is more electronegative than aluminum. Right, electronegativity increases this way and increases this way. So electronegative effect, just 1 minute. Somebody came in. No problem, it's okay. Those who just came in, please write your name. Never mind, we go there. So electronegativity effect is that aluminum is less electronegative than silicon. Silicon is more electronegative, right? So due to this electronegativity, silicon makes the release of hydrogen ion faster than aluminum, since it attracts electrons towards it and which make the proton away of it. If it is your more electronegative, right, that means it's taking that electron towards itself. That means release of this H plus ion taking that electron towards itself, releasing this one would be faster, right? Since it attracts electrons towards it, which make the proton away, H plus away from this hydrocarbon, it will go away faster because this one is more electronegative. So acidity can be measured by temperature programmed desorption method TPD, and the probe molecule used to have this TPD is used nitrogen or ammonium, ammonia NH3. So ammonia TPD by ammonia is one, nitrogen is another one. So it's that temperature programmed desorption method or FTIR, Fourier transformation infrared spectroscopy. With this, we can find out the acidity of that catalyst. That means we can identify Bronsted acidic sites and the Lewis acid sites. Induced laser spectroscopy is another technique where also we can find the acidity. You can measure the acidity of that our zeolite catalyst or any catalyst that we measure the acidity. Right, these are the techniques to measure the acidity. So temperature programmed desorption TPD, pure carrier gas, typically helium, flows over the samples as the temperature is raised to dissolve previously absorbed gas ammonia. Ammonia was used for this temperature programmed desorption TPD. So what we do, we just pass any carrier, any your inert gas, typically helium, the pure carrier gas, that will drive away the ammonia if it were absorbed by that your uh, catalyst. So we drive it away. Later, we use this ammonia to be absorbed and we measure the acidity based on this option on the acid sites. These characteristics fingerprint for each catalyst used to determine the distribution of acid site strength if ammonia is sorbed gas. If the ammonia is used at that sorbed means adsorbed and absorbed. Add, ab. Both, when both are together, we call it sorbed. Um, that is, adsorption is on the surface, add. On the surface, if anything is adsorbed. If it goes inside of that structure, it is absorption, AB. Okay. So if anything is residing on the your surface, also penetrating, then together we call it sorption. That is adsorption plus absorption. I think I discussed it before, right? I think. Okay. By this method, we assess acidic site, Bronsted acid site or Lewis acid site. As for example, by FTIR, if pyridine is the probe molecule, that means this pyridine we use to determine the acidic sites of our these Bronsted acidic sites or Lewis acid sites. It will give peaks at 1540 per centimeter in FTIR spectrum. In that spectrum, we find that if we find your peaks for this Bronsted site at 1540, we understand this peak is for Bronsted acid sites. And if it is 1450, we find that it's Lewis acid sites. So the intensity will tell you which one is higher. Suppose 1540 per centimeter, the intensity of the peak is too high. We can measure the intensity and we can just make it quantitatively. What's the Bronsted acid sites? What's the the amount we can say, or this one, this Lewis acid sites at 1450 based on the intensity we can measure. At least we can see that this intensity is very low, is there, but low. That means it's low. The concentration of Lewis acid site is lower. If this peak is sharp peak and longer peak, the intensity is too high intensity. That means what? More, right? So acid sites in solid types that, as we discussed, the silica alumina zeolite and sulfated zirconia, ZR. This is not zeolite, zirconia. This is different. Different is, we are not talking about this part, is a bit is different. That is, if you see that silica alumina, this is zeolite, then Lewis acid is here, Bronsted acid is H plus, means hydrogen, where this is hydrogen ion is there, right? It's related to this. So here also OH group is related to Bronsted site, and this oxygen, pure oxygen, suppose it's that Lewis site, because here is that protonated, we have this electron can add here, right? So it will be plus. Due to this structure, we can find out that Lewis sites are where it can accept electrons, right? And Bronsted side where H plus it can donate, because this is that catalyst. On top of this, any hydrocarbon will come and sit, any material will come and sit, that based on their demand, they need what? They need H plus donor, then this site is good for them. If it is they need that electron, with them is that something where this site will accept electron and follow. So based on the type of that reaction, what we want, what based on the uh, reactants, what's coming in. Induced laser spectroscopy is also that IL, we call it in short. It is, this is probed molecule has to be prepared in different acidic concentration of the solution. So this is another technique where we can find the acidic sites. So there is no single method that can be used to determine all aspects of acidity for a solid. That is, nature, strength, and number of acid sites, all these, we cannot find it in a single method. So each method measures only certain aspects, and therefore a lot of methods have been developed to measure the strength, the number of acid sites, the nature of this. Right. We will find that supported catalyst, often we'll see that TiO2 supported on silica, or platinum dispersed on silica or zeolite or anything. So highly dispersed metal on metal oxides, as for example nickel clusters on silica. So this is that supported catalyst, which means one bifunctional, you can say bifunctional catalyst. Means two functions we have. One is from the metal that is dispersed, as for example nickel here, on metal oxide, that is silica, if it is silica or alumina. So is that supported catalyst? We have two parts, right? One is that metal alone, another one is metal oxides. Different things, different metal oxides. Suppose active sites, bifunctional catalysts, is that, as for example, platinum over alumina. Platinum is dispersed on alumina catalyst. So we have platinum is that metal, solid metal. Alumina is also an oxides, that is Al2O3. Both are inorganic. Very true, no problem for that. But is that one is that platinum alone is doing some work, Al2 is serving another way. Both combined function we can get it from this bifunctional catalysts. So platinum over alumina, platinum is dispersed on alumina. This catalyst used in hydro processing of petrochemicals. The metal serves to dissociate hydrogen hydrogen gas, right? While the acid support, another one, acid support Al2O3, serves to catalyze the buildup of virtual carbonium I intermediates. Sometimes it happens that one is done by this platinum and leaves on this Al2O3. Al2O3 will do the rest. Okay? So it's cracked by platinum first, or something dissociated. Later, this one taking care of this by this, or sometimes this is dual function. So in many ways it can serve. Hmm. So methyl cyclopropane, suppose is coming in, 2-butane is coming in. So this hydrogen will be split by this platinum and this alumina Al2O3. This one will do the rest. That means it will uh, build up of vital carbonium ions intermediates, and finally the product will form. So catalyst, if you look at that active sites, I just make it. Okay, you can see it right now. The concept of, right, clear, right? At least you can see that slides. Okay, right. Anybody? Okay, all right. Thank you. Now, it's not actually very clear, that's the where I have chosen this one is not that vivid, means very clear, but however, if you can see it, is still okay, fine. The concept of active sites. So active sites is therefore very wide. Some examples of adsorbed surface complexes are shown here. You can observe how reactants interacts with the catalyst surface depending on the nature and distribution of active sites. As for example, this structure, if you see that A, ammonia Lewis base coordinately linked to aluminum ion Lewis acid on alumina surface. So this is that active sites. B and C, these are platinum based, right? So linear and bridge adsorption of CO on platinum. So D is that T and E, that is dissociative adsorption of hydrogen or ethane on platinum. So this way, so many things are there for all these catalysts. So these are the active sites on which the reaction takes place. Shape selective nature of zeolite. That means previously I told you that it's that very unique in this type of things where shape selectivity gives us the desired product. And follow me. We do not want something we do not want, but if we use a different catalyst, it will give us that type of undesired product, right? So this selectivity, as for example, I'll go to this first, then you'll see that. Paraxylene, para, ortho, meta, para. Xylene, it has got ortho, meta, and para positions. Now, if we have orthoxylene, metaxylene, it will not go in that ZSM5 because this paraxylene is relative diffusion coefficient is very, very high. It can go inside, whereas ortho and meta will not be allowed to go. So this is that shape selective nature of zeolite. So zeolite catalyst types are ZSM5, effective diameter of intracrystalline cavity nanometer is in nanometer 0.60. Mordenite, another zeolite family catalyst, is that is natural at 0.70. ZSM4 angstrom 4 angstroms is that 0.80. HY is that another catalyst, we just call it HY type zeolite, and this is hydrogen is attached to that. So this is more than 1.2 that is effective diameter of intracrystalline cavity. Based on this, your nanometer, the molecules will get in, rest will not. Others will be barred from entering. So if it is very high porous, if you have HY, it's 1.2 nanometer, double of ZSM5, you can say, right? So ZSM5 can control any material, while this one will, will not have any control. It will crack, or it will do a catalytic part to all the products, byproducts, and which we sometimes accept, sometimes we do not accept. We do not need that one. So selectivities of acidic zeolite for disproportionation and isomerization of xylene that occurs with that para position. Right. So ZSM5 catalyst is preferred, minimizing the bimolecular disproportionation reaction by virtue of restricted transition state selectivity. That is, ZSM5 will not allow orthoxylene or paraxylene, metaxylene. Paraxylene will be allowed only. So what it happens is that some people, means Hag and co-workers, they observed this one, that para-selectivity is achieved due to the high diffusion coefficient of para-substituted molecules relative to that of ortho or meta. Its high diffusion coefficient of this your position, paraxylene, will allow this one to get in. So a side reaction in homogeneous solution phase isomerization is the bimolecular disproportionation of xylene. So that cannot occur when using ZSM5, since the pore size will not allow for the bulk bimolecular transition state necessary for disproportionation reaction. So others reactions will not go, while selectively paraxylene will go in. So here, if we see that this one, if it is produced in this para position, it can go inside and then it, whatever the catalytic reaction it goes through. So paraxylene diffuses preferentially out of zeolite channels. It will goes off. But meta and ortho, if there is any ortho there, will not be allowed to enter. So this way, that zeolite ZSM5 will allow paraxylene to get in. This way, Y-type zeolite, just now I have shown you HY, that is 1.2 angstrom. If it is bigger, so if you look at it, smaller hydrocarbon, bigger, biggest, or very big. So if it is anything giant, it can get in, but if it is there, no. This one, yes, right. This one, yes, but some will not be able to get in. But here, maybe till that end is allows, but if it is larger, the molecules may not be allowed. And there are many things inside actually. That overcracking is another thing. That is, if somewhere, suppose here small things cracked very, you need, suppose as for example, you need this type of, this or this is your desired hydrocarbon. Can follow me? You do not want methane, ethane, propane, butane, but you want gasoline boiling range hydrocarbon. Just as for example. So carbon 7, 8, 9, this gasoline boiling range hydrocarbon is your desired product. Rest of the thing, it will be undesired. That means if it is overcracked, that means it's becoming smaller hydrocarbons, finally forming that methane. Methane is again cracked, forming carbon. So this carbon is deposited on the catalyst. So this is hindering the process, and we do not want carbon. We want what? Gasoline. So this is overcracked. This is your something that we do not want, but due to this acidity or due to this nature of this zeolite catalyst, it happened. So we need to control. That's why we need to use different types of zeolite with different acidity. Huh. Otherwise, we cannot control this reaction where we get it some undesired products out of our desired product, which means our desired product formed and we couldn't control. That one led to very low molecular weight or other things unnecessary or undesired products, right? Hmm. Or this one forming cyclization, forming coke or something that is deposited on the your zeolite catalyst site and making it deactivated. So often we hear this term deactivation of this catalyst because this is not activated anymore, which means some products are there which is not removed from the surface, is blocking. So fine particles of carbon, in fact, is deposited on the zeolite catalyst. We observe this one. If we crack that high molecular weight of hydrocarbon, long chain hydrocarbon, and we find that it's overcracked and producing these small particles of carbon which we do not want, but the catalyst is deactivated. We need to change it. We need to regenerate. We need to stop this one, otherwise gaseous formation will form, means products will forming more gaseous products. So we need to check, what do you want? I want this type of gaseous product. Then go ahead. I want that this type of in this range hydrocarbon. Then you control. Hmm, can follow. So this way, that's we find that is deactivated immediately. We need to change the catalyst bed. So in industry, we have this system of regeneration whereby we bring this catalyst bed, and if some reaction is going on, later we switch over to another fresh bed of this catalyst. This one goes for maintenance, means regeneration. Suppose A and B, these two column catalyst bed are prepared, A and B. A train, suppose we call it in the industry, sometimes they call it train A, train B, or column A, column B. So when this column A is in operation, B is in standby. So A, in this column A, we pass the material to be cracked or to be to get the your catalytic reactions. After that, this A column is losing its activity because of this products formed on this which cannot be dissolved. Somehow it's deactivated. So we need to clean this one. So if this is case, then we change the reactants to go to channel B or the adsorbent column B. There is the fresh catalyst stuck there, right? So we pass that one, bypass, there is a valve of that. You just close that valve, you open this valve, so this valve will go to B type or B your catalyst bed, right? Now this catalyst A, you bring it for regeneration. That means the reverse of this, you need to clean this one. There are some procedures for this cleaning, for acid treatment or alkali treatment. So we clean this one. Later when it's in already in good shape, means you're already recovered the things, we have already made the catalyst bed available for the reaction, then again we use it. So this one goes for maintenance, or the, you can say, regeneration. No, not maintenance but regeneration, and that one is active, right? When it's exhausted, we switch over to another bed. So this way industry, they use yeah, right. Thank you very much. All right, any question please? 14 of us. Many left already or lost the connection. Hmm. Any question, please? If you wish to ask me now, you can ask me now or
No, Rajat.
anytime later if you wish.